Imagine a 40-foot wall of molasses. Not water, not lava, molasses, moving at 35 miles per hour through the streets of Boston, crushing buildings, flipping trucks, and drowning people in sticky, sweet death. Sound like a nightmare? It actually happened. January 15, 1919. 21 people died, 150 were injured, and for decades afterward, on hot summer days, the streets of Boston still smelled like sweet, sticky death. This is the story of America's strangest disaster, the Great Molasses Flood. The year is 1919. World War I just ended. Boston's North End is a bustling immigrant neighborhood. Italians, Irish, Jewish families, all packed together near the waterfront. And looming over them is a monster, a massive steel tank, 50 feet tall and 90 feet wide, owned by the Purity Distilling Company. This tank held 2.3 million gallons of molasses. Why so much molasses? It was being turned into industrial alcohol from munitions and rum. But here's the terrifying part. This tank was rushed into construction. No architect reviewed the plans. No safety inspection was ever done. The steel was too thin, the rivets were faulty, and when workers reported that it leaked so badly you could hear it groaning and see molasses seeping out, the company just painted it brown to hide the leaks. A disaster waiting to happen. January 15, 1919, 12:30 p.m. It's an unusually warm day for Boston in January, about 40 degrees. Inside the tank, the molasses is expanding from the warmth. The pressure is building. The tank is groaning louder than ever. And then, bang. The rivets start popping like machine gun fire, the steel panels rip apart, and 2.3 million gallons of molasses explodes into the street in a wave 40 feet high, moving at 35 miles per hour. Witnesses said it sounded like a roaring monster. The ground shook like an earthquake. The wave was so powerful it ripped buildings off their foundations, crushed homes like cardboard, knocked an elevated train off its tracks, and sent a truck flying into Boston Harbor. But here's what makes this even more horrific. Molasses is dense. It's twice as heavy as water, and in the January cold, it started to thicken almost immediately. People caught in it couldn't swim. They couldn't move. They were trapped, struggling in a sticky, suffocating nightmare. The rescue effort was a nightmare. How do you rescue people from molasses? Ladders sank into it. Boats couldn't move through it. Rescuers waded in waist deep, but the molasses was so thick and sticky they could barely move. The final toll? 21 people dead, including children, 150 injured, dozens of horses killed, an entire neighborhood destroyed. But the horror didn't end there. The molasses was everywhere. It coated the streets 2 to 3 feet deep. It covered buildings, cars, people. It got into the sewers, the harbor, people's homes. Even the telephone lines were dripping with it. Cleanup took 87,000 man-hours and required them to pump salt water from the harbor to wash it away. For decades afterward, on hot summer days, the north end of Boston would smell like molasses. People said you could still find traces of it in the basements of old buildings into the 1960s. The lawsuit that followed was one of the longest and most complex in Massachusetts history. It lasted 6 years. The company tried to blame everything, even anarchists, claiming they bombed the tank, but engineers proved the truth. The tank was shoddily built, never properly inspected, and the company ignored all the warning signs. The victims' families received about $600,000, roughly $7 million in today's money. The Purity Distilling Company never took responsibility. But this disaster changed everything. It led to stricter building codes, mandatory engineering oversight, and requirements that all construction plans be signed off by licensed professionals. Today, there's a small plaque near the site in Boston's North End, and locals still swear that on hot summer days, if you know where to stand, you can catch just the faintest whiff of molasses in the air, a sweet, sticky reminder of the day Boston drowned in dessert. The molasses wave moved faster than most people can run, 35 miles per hour. At that temperature, molasses has the consistency of thick syrup, but it's twice as heavy as water, making it nearly impossible to escape. The explosion was so violent that pieces of the tank were found over 200 yards away. The force was equivalent to a localized earthquake. And here's the creepiest part. Engineers who studied the disaster in 2019 confirmed that the warm weather that day was the final trigger. If it had stayed cold, it might never have happened. 21 lives lost in molasses, one of the strangest disasters in American history, and one that should never be forgotten.